Now in this tutorial I'm going to be taking you through creating a search engine which is going to effectively search data inside of your database, or a database that you hold any data in. So in the case of this tutorial, I'm using it to search specific articles that I've already added to a MySQL database. However, you could adapt this to your own needs and use it for your own content. So bear in mind that although the way I'm demonstrating is searching articles, you don't need to do this. You can adapt it to your own needs. So I'm going to take a few minutes in this tutorial, in this first part of this tutorial, just to go over how the search engine works and also the content that I'm going to be searching, so you can get a feel of how this engine works. Now what this tutorial is something that searches databases. It is not a tutorial that is for like a general search engine such as Google. However, you could incorporate some back-end script that could index websites perhaps, but I'm not going to be covering that aspect of this in this tutorial. So this is the search engine. Before I go ahead and demonstrate this, we're going to go over to PHP MyAdmin, where I have already added I think 9, let's have a check, yes, 9 articles, all from webdesignermag.co.uk. So if you head over to webdesignermag.co.uk, you can see that they have news features on their website. Okay, so what I have done is created a database with, first of all, an article ID, and this is just an auto-incrementing value in my database. This field contains auto-incrementing numbers, so it's an integer field, and this just helps to keep each article that I've added unique. We're not going to be using article ID in any sense in this tutorial. However, if it's a good practice to get into adding whatever data you're adding, use a unique ID for that. We've then got a title, which is pretty self-explanatory. We have a description, which is a short description of the article contents. All this data was taken from Web Designer Mag. We've then got the URL that we're going to redirect the user to. So when you search something in Google, obviously the link is going to take you to that content. And then we have this keywords field, which is the most important part. This is the field that we're going to be searching for. So you can either create some clever script that takes keywords from your description or from the website you're trying to index, or you can create these yourself. So in this case, I have just taken a few keywords from the description and just typed them into this keywords field myself. So each record or row has these keywords, and they're just simply separated by a space. That's really important that you separate them by a space, because what we're going to be doing is, depending on the keywords typed in here, for example, if we were typing flash and we were to click search, we've only got one keyword here, so that would pick up on any keyword that's relative to any of these. So if we go down, you can see that this one contains flash, and therefore this whole record will be returned. What we can also do is then type in another keyword, so for example pro, and that's obviously separated by a space, because generally when people search they will separate their keywords by a space, or their question, or the content that they're searching for. So in this case we have flash here and we have pro here. Now it doesn't matter in which order they are, so if someone was to search for top flash code, this result would still be returned even though they're not next to each other. So the ordering of the keywords inside of here is not really important, as long as you've got the keywords in this field that you'd like people to search for and these to be returned. As long as they're in there, whatever order they're in, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to demonstrate that, and first of all I'm going to demonstrate with this second row we have here. I'm going to go and search for blogging. So let's go over to the search engine and just type in blogging. And when I click search, you can see that it returns one result. We get the information here, your search for and their search term, and returned one result. That should probably be result instead of result, but we can easily fix that by checking the results and then appending on an S. So I'm not going to be covering that, but that should be pretty straightforward. Then we have the title, the description, and you'll notice that it's been cut off here, and I've just appended 3 dots. So we're only going to be selecting part of the description. Obviously this is important if you have long descriptions. You're not going to want to show the whole description on the page, and you can choose the amount of characters you want to be displayed. We then also have the link, so we can click this link and it will take us straight over to the article itself. Okay, so let's go ahead now and demonstrate the second thing I mentioned, was what happens if I search for top code, or for example pro snippets. So let's go ahead and type in pro snippets, click search, and you can see that we've got these top 50 pro Flash techniques, and that is that article there with the keywords that I mentioned. We also can obviously return multiple results. So for example, this keyword here contains Flash, and so does this one here. So if we were to just, for example, type Flash in here, click search, you can see that we're actually returned with 3 results. So there's obviously 3 records in our table that contain Flash. We've got Flash here, and Flash here. So it's returned these 3 results here. So that's how the search engine works. We're using a few pages. One of them is to connect to our database. Let's just go over to our text editor. We've got this db.inc.php, which is going to connect to our database. We've then got index.php, which is the main page that you see here. And then we have func.inc.php, which essentially contains one function, and this is the function that essentially returns results. So we supply this with the keywords, we break down the keywords that the user enters, and then we search, and then we return the results back to index.php. So that's the way the search engine works, and a bit about the back end, the database itself. Obviously in the next part we're going to start to write everything out. We're going to be creating the form, then we're going to be connecting to our database. So we're going to do everything from scratch. The only thing I'm not going to be doing is actually creating the database. So everything you see here, I'm not going to be typing in, just for time purposes, because I want to keep the tutorial as short as possible but as informative as possible. So if you want to use my code, my data here for your own purpose during, following the tutorial, I've provided the SQL statement which will add this. So the only thing you're going to need to do is go into PHP create a database. I've called this search engine. Create a table. I've called mine articles. Well, you don't even need to do that actually. You can create the database. You can come over to the SQL tab. If you go over to the PHP Academy forum, under the source code section you'll find the code, which you can essentially just paste into here, click go, and this table and all the data will be automatically created for you, just so you don't have to create your own data while following the tutorial, and you can use what I've already written. So that's essentially the introduction. This is exactly what we're going to be creating throughout this series, and this will be continued in the second part.